Okay, about the conditionals, the if-thens, there are some other ways to word this instead of using if-then. And I know when I covered section 3.1, there was a couple of problems that just had an if, and they actually didn't use the word then, and I inserted it, but the sentence would have read the same way without the word then. Um, but they can also write it these ways. These ways. They can say one statement if the other statement. Q if P. Here the if still is associated with the P even though it occurs later in the sentence. So if they were to write a statement, blah, 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 if yada, 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 whatever comes after the if, and this is no different than before, whatever comes after the if is still your hypothesis. All right. Let's see. The next one says recognize that only if does not say the same thing as if. The if condition is the hypothesis. Hypothesis. The only if condition is the conclusion. So when they say only if, that's like saying if then. The P is still, the P in front is still your hypothesis. Whoops, I just realized I didn't hit the highlighter on that one, sorry. Oop. This is still your hypothesis, and the Q comes after the only if. The only if part, running out of colors here, the Q here, the only if is the condition. That is the conclusion. P is sufficient for Q. The sufficient condition is the hypothesis. P is sufficient, so P is still the sufficient part, and the Q is the conclusion. I said sufficient part. The P is the hypothesis, and the Q is the conclusion. And then this next one, it's flipped. It says Q is necessary for P. So when they throw in Q is necessary for P, and they're showing this down here, if P, then Q, only if necessary. So Q, am I using the right color? Only if necessary. That puts the conclusion first and the hypothesis second. And you can see it here. P is sufficient for the Q, which makes the Q, this here, only if necessary. A little play on words. That slide might come in handy for a couple of your problems in your assignment, so you might want to look for that. Okay, what's next? Okay. Oh, and these are just some examples that, some examples that get over it. Write each statement in if-then form. Your driver's license will be suspended if you are convicted of driving under the influence of alcohol. And then it gives you an answer because the if goes with the clause. Let me put those in yellow again. Because the if, okay, it's not gonna sometimes it lets me do it and sometimes it doesn't. The if goes with the clause, you are convicted of driving under the influence. That becomes your hypothesis. So you can rewrite the sentence, if you are convicted of driving under the influence of alcohol, then, oh, That doesn't look very good, does it? Then your driver's license will be suspended. I was trying to use the same colors as before, but that's all in red. I can kind of see it. So remember, the hypothesis goes after the if, and the conclusion goes after the then. All right, what's the next example? You will graduate only if you have a 2.5 grade point average. Okay, on the only if goes with the clause, you have a 2.5 grade point average. Therefore, this is the conclusion. The only if goes with you have a 2.5 grade point average. Only ifs go with the conclusion. It was written second in the sentence. So you would rewrite it and say, if you graduate, then you will have a 2.5. Then you have a 2.5 grade point average. Okay, and then C, to hold your reservation, it is sufficient to give us your credit card number. Okay, if you remember, the it is sufficient identifies the hypothesis. So when it says it is sufficient to give us your credit card number, that should go after the word if. And here it is. If you give us your credit card number, then to hold your reservation. So we will hold your reservation. Makes more sense than saying then to hold. All right. And then there's one more example. D, to qualify for a discount on your airline tickets, it is necessary to pay for them 2 weeks in advance. The it is necessary goes with to pay for them 2 weeks in advance. So that would be then you pay for them 2 weeks in advance. The it is necessary is always paired up with the conclusion. So my hypothesis is if you qualify for a discount. So if you qualify for a discount on your airline tickets, then you pay for them 2 weeks in advance. Okay. And I am going to stop this video and pick up this slide on a new one.